1. And we are live. Welcome, everybody. So I'm live with Tepsii, and we're going to talk about copywriting as coaching. And before we go on, since it takes about a minute for people to show up, I'm going to go into my Facebook to edit and tag Tepsii, and then we will be officially talking to you all.
I'm excited to be here. Oh, I see you now live on my phone.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
We look excellent on here.
Yeah. All right, now you're tagged. All right. So, yeah. So welcome, Tepsii, to this Facebook Live series. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to be here to talk about this topic because I think you actually came up with this after I did another interview and brought that up, and it seems most of the people who listened to that episode all referred to the same thing. They all had the same questions that you had. So I think this is an awesome opportunity to clear it up.
Yeah, this is great. So yeah, it's I saw the interview on Webpreneurs, and you were talking about the 5 steps of copywriting. And then we can talk about that too. And then you said about how copywriting is just a form of coaching the reader as they're reading it to really overcome their fears and their blocks, and also really help create clarity inside themselves about what they really want, and if it's even a good fit. And so they're really coaching themselves as they're reading it, and you're helping that along, like you're facilitating that. And at the end, they get to make, the way I understand what you said, and you can also correct me, they really get to be in a place of a clear yes or a clear no. Because the worst thing is to be in a place of maybe forever, and that takes so much of your brain energy, and it wastes a lot of your time and energy, and it's not good for you. So copywriting can be a form of service, so that they don't have to waste so much of their valuable mental capacity and live the life they actually want to live, even if they decide it's a no. At least it's a clear no, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so you can clarify further what you meant by that.
Yeah, is that what you'd like me to go ahead and clarify now? Yes?
Yeah, yeah.
So when I'm writing copy, I'm really thinking about the moments of doubt and the objections that people have. So any of us who've ever been on a call with a prospective client, or been in person with a prospective client, and we are sharing what it is we do, we start by exploring what is someone's struggle right now. What are their pain points right now? What in their life is not working for them as it relates to what you sell or do or provide as a service. So if you are a health coach, then you are going to ask a person who's maybe having some kind of health issue or weight issue. You're going to start to ask them about how that impacts their life, how it feels to be in that position. You're going to ask them how it impacts other things. So it's not just, if I have a health issue, it's not just a health issue. It becomes a work issue because maybe I don't show up to work so much. It becomes a relationship issue because perhaps I'm not showing up 100% in my relationships, or I'm projecting my health issues into my relationship, or I'm hiding out from relationships. So sort of that thing of fight or flight or freeze, that we kind of go into as a trauma response is what's happening to you when you have something that's impacting you that you cannot get off your mind, right? So a health issue becomes, it starts permeating every area of your life. And so you're going to talk to your prospective client about that. And then from that position, you're then going to ask them, okay, so I understand where you are right now. You're feeling really stuck. It's impacting your relationships. You don't want to be seen. Perhaps you're not interviewing for new jobs or looking for new clients in your business because of this health issue. What would success look like for you? And in that conversation with that client, they'll tell you success looks like being intimate with my partner again. Success looks like, being in the boardroom. And when people say, does anybody else have an opinion or a question, raising your hand. Those things, that confidence that comes when you start showing up fully is what success looks like. And they're going to tell you in their words. Now, me as the copywriter, I listen to words. I listen to people's method of self-expression, and I use their words in the writing that I do to sell products and programs to the people who are looking for them. So copywriting isn't manipulative because I'm not seeking to sell someone who doesn't want the service. I'm seeking to invite someone in who's already looking and they've arrived at this position because this is what they truly need, right? So all of those steps on the journey of discovery that you would do in a call or a conversation with someone in real life per se, my job as a copywriter when it comes to sales is to translate that into the written word and to help a person go through that conversation and really effectively coach themselves. On a sales conversation, I wouldn't be coaching my prospective client. I'm just listening to them. However, when I'm by myself and I'm reading, there's an interaction between me and the page that I'm reading. And there are all types of questions and objections and issues that are coming up in the top of my mind. Things like, is this person the one for me? Or is this worth the money? Or are these results that they're telling me about true and real? And can they work for me? And does this person help people like me? Does she help or he help people who have my specific issue and are walking in my lane in life? So we don't even know we go into reading anything with those questions. You don't get to a sales page as a prospective buyer and go like, here's my checklist of things that I'm thinking about. No, you are actually in your subconscious having these thoughts and these, kind of things firing off without even realizing them. But when the subconscious is not satisfied and these questions are not answered, they start to bother us. And that's when we close the page. So the copywriting experience can kind of coach the person through making their decision in a way that feels good, in a way that feels valid and authentic for them, so that they can come out on the other side going like, wow, yes, these words speak to me. This is exactly my pain. And that is exactly what I want my transformation to look like. I'm ready to buy this.
Yeah. So we got some comments. Micheline said, woohoo, hello from Cape Town, South Africa. So it looks like she's in South Africa too.
Yay. Hello, fellow South
Yay.
African. Nice to see you.
Yeah. And she says, beautiful people of color like me. Yay. And she also said, I suck so badly at that part, the selling. I think a lot of people do, like especially coaches and healers, because we've been taught this idea that selling is a bad thing, and to a certain extent, it might be depending on like how you're selling it. Like if you're trying to convince somebody who doesn't need it, then it might actually be a bad thing. But it sounds like what you're doing is there is a lot of prior work done before writing the copy. That's what it sounds like to me, that there's a lot of research done on the language they use. There's a lot of research done on what they actually need. And also even the traffic that's being sent is targeted towards people who actually need it, so that by the time they're already there, they know they need it. They're just not sure if you're the one for them, and you help them decide that.
Yeah, I think of selling as something spiritual. I think I sent an email to the people who are on my list, so my subscribers this week, about how lately I have a very good friend who has been going through some stuff, and all the things that were drug up with the Me Too movement triggered her, and things in the US with racial relations and things, they were really triggering her. And she said to me, I'm a Facebook ad strategist. What does Facebook ad strategy add to the world? There are people suffering out there, and I'm here selling this thing that feels so trivial, the service that doesn't matter. And I said to her, I actually learned about the whole world of online coaching and courses through a Facebook ad. I would not be sitting in this position talking to you now, Clinton, or doing any of the things that I do if not for that Facebook ad. I feel like it was the catalyst to, a really big transformation and shift for me in my life. And behind that ad, there had to have been some strategist who was thinking about how to target someone who's exactly like me with the exact needs and concerns and struggles and dreams and inspiration and excitement and enthusiasm for contributing to the world in a different way than I was previously. And because of that ad, I was able to get introduced to something that I then invested in. And it took some time, for sure. Nothing is a magic pill. But over time, I was able to learn the skills I needed to learn to show up, to be visible, to sell, to do what I do now. And I feel like so much gratitude for whoever that person was that turned that ad on. So what you think you might be doing that's not worthy or not of service is so very important, and it's a very spiritual process. And for those of us who say we suck at selling, I think we're undermining ourselves. We're actually giving ourselves an out. This is a limited belief. We can all learn anything. I think that we're intelligent enough, and if we're curious enough, and we look at sales as something other than this icky thing, it's not about the used car kind of sales strategies. It's really about understanding problems. It's about creating containers for transformation. And it's about delivering results to the people who need them the most. So, if you can follow those 3 steps, then what you're doing is the same as what you do when you do your own self-development work. When you sit down and pray, you discover what you need and you go within. I'm so sorry. We have a visitor who just popped in. Mandy, Mama's doing care of you. Why? Because this is my job. So, I'm done with my bath. You're done with your bath? Thank you for letting me know. I love you so much. Okay. I'll see you, okay?
Yeah, so Micheline, if you can, she wrote another comment here, actually. She says, I get to the subconscious brilliantly in counseling, but never ever in selling. That's such a great point. And that's why I wanted to do this interview, because most copywriters don't even talk about this. And then Micheline says, I have a story that people are afraid of what I do in soul work to face themselves. So that is her. You were talking about subconscious beliefs. I think that is one of them that's showing up for her, which is great because I was just going to ask her to comment about that. So it's great that she's done it first. Yeah.
Yeah. When she says she's great at selling, can you bring that other comment back? She's great at getting to the subconscious in counseling, but not in selling. I think that's what she said. Yeah. And I want you to know that copywriting and selling is really just psychology. So if you're a counselor, or you are a life coach, or you are someone who does some kind of cognitive behavioral science or neuroscience, you have a head start on the rest of the population when it comes to writing effectively and when it comes to selling, okay? All you're doing is developing relationships, and you're anticipating human needs and desires. You can think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and think about, some of the things that we aspire to once our food needs and our shelter needs are taken care of, we aspire to other things like community and culture and prestige and connection and, you know, some of those other needs that come up for us. That is the reason that we're taking action and changing whatever struggle that we're in right now into a transformation. It's because we actually are starting to recognize, hey, you know what? I'm not as happy as I think I am. I'm ready for a change. So the change that you facilitate as a counselor is the same change you can facilitate as someone who is in the sales process. And if it feels better to you, let's change the vocabulary. Let's take the word sell out. You know, I'm totally comfortable with that. I had a client who I would say, hey, let's do some mindset work. And she didn't like that. She did not want to hear the words mindset work. And I kept trying to figure out what her issue was. She didn't like the word work. So we had to change it. And we changed it to mindset play. Then she was totally game to do that. So whatever like neuro-linguistic programming skills that you've learned along the way to do what you do and be really good at it are what you can bring into your selling process. Let's call it the invitation process. Instead of sales, let's call it invitation. And let's talk about how do you invite someone in. Think about how when you first meet someone and you really like them and you're thinking about like, how do I get this person to like me back and connect with them and relate to them and, you know, be in energetic alignment to them and sort of court them. It's the same exact strategy you use when you're, you know, inviting clients into your life. You're doing the same thing. It's just a different context, but it's just yet another relationship in your life where you're giving and you're taking and you're, you know, it's reciprocal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And if anyone's watching, it's great if you can click share or click like, and that helps spread it in the newsfeed and you help your friends get this valuable content as well. I wanted to also reference, you know, that one of the reasons why people are afraid of selling is because of like they're afraid of like being out of integrity because or being associated with others who are like you know there's a lot of, for example, six-figure coaches who have never actually made six figures, right? A lot of weight loss coaches who haven't really lost weight. So but you're not like that. Like you started in 2015, like I read your bio and you became very quickly a six-figure coach and you've been featured in Oprah Magazine, Cosmopolitan Magazine, and a whole lot of other media places as well. Like, so like let's talk about that and then we'll come back to copywriting too. Like how did you like come to this place? Like what's your journey?
It took 12 years.
Okay.
It looks really sexy to talk about the really fast success from the day that I decided I'm going to do copywriting. I took an invitation into copywriting, really. It wasn't the destination I was originally intending. I, at the time, was trying to grow an e-commerce hair and body products company and also life coaching. And I met a fellow copywriter who said, "No, that's not who you are. You're not supposed to be selling products or doing life coaching in this moment. You are supposed to be doing copywriting." And she said she just had a hunch from the universe. And so from that hunch from the universe, she helped me out of the kindness of her heart. She referred me to a few clients. Those clients referred me to more clients. And the client machine just like blew up like that through a lot of referrals. And once the referrals started trickling dry, I started doing things like ads and live streaming. Back in the day, it was Periscope. And then from there into webinars. And I did a lot of in-person connecting as well, going to conferences and events. And, you know, in the beginning, I was an attendee. But my very first event that was in this industry, the online coaching course industry, I said to myself, next time I go to one of these, I'm going to be a speaker. And so my goal at that event was for everybody to leave the place knowing my name. And I am actually a naturally very much of an introvert. My family will tell you it's hard to get me out of the house. It's hard to get me to go do anything. I don't want to go to parties. Like I just am very much of an introvert, homebody. keep to myself type of person. But my dreams were so loud in my ear. Like it was this rumbling, roaring thing saying, get out there, share what you know, share your personality, share your skills, and do something different with your life. And so I kind of had to shut down those introvert tendencies and those ideas about myself and who I thought I was and what I was capable of doing and being, and decide that I could act as if, right? I could act as if, how would someone who's truly brave and confident and outgoing, how would that person show up at an interview? Or how would that person show up on a sales call? Or how would that person show up at an event? And so at the events that I would go to, if there was an opportunity for audience participation, I'd be the first one to raise my hand or to get to the microphone and ask my question in very strategic ways. So a lot of people think, like, they wonder, how did you get known very quickly? It was because I literally engineered that by showing up and allowing myself to be seen and connecting with people. And when I went for a question, I would say, hey, my name is Tepsii and I'm a copywriter. And I would say, I'd ask a question, whatever issue it was. I think I remember one time saying I didn't know what to do with overflow clients and how to raise my rates or something like that. And then I switched the question as well, saying a lot of clients are really happy with the work I'm doing. I want to be able to be of more service by increasing my rates and, doing this. So I kind of gave myself a plug at the same time as asking a question, and in a very natural way, without like trying to be salesy or anything. And let me tell you, after asking that question, I had at least maybe 70 people rush up to me right away as soon as we had a break to give me a hug, to give me their business card, to just tell me that they were encouraged by me and my, ability to show up and do it, even though I was scared. And from there, it's just been relationships and just continuing to show up. And that's how I kind of have gotten to this position, through tenacity and drive and stick-to-itiveness and never being willing to hear no, even when the people around me don't really believe in what I'm doing. At first, my husband thought this was a pipe dream, and that I was a little bit crazy, but I just had to keep going, even if he thought that, because I knew what was inside me, and I knew what I was capable of, and I knew the thing that I always write in copy that I deliver to my clients is, what happens if you don't decide to show up for yourself now? What happens if you don't take action on your dreams and the things that you want to go after now? And for me, I thought, okay, what would happen? And I remember actually a coach also asking me this question. And I said, what would happen is if I didn't at least try, I would lose a lot of respect for myself. I would feel very low in terms of confidence. And I would be continuing to go to a job that I didn't love and where I didn't feel tons of value. And then, asking myself, like, is that how I want to show up? I have one life to live, and it could be short. My mom passed away when she was 35. I'm 33 now. So, I think of things in not like morbid terms, but in reality, realistic terms. It's either now or never. It's either like do it or die. So I have to show up, and I encourage my, clients and people who read my copy to show up and stand up for themselves as well.
That is great. So it sounds like a lot of it was through in-person relationship building, like going to conferences, asking strategic questions to the speakers and facilitators, and bringing a name for yourself. And it sounds like by the time you were doing that, you already had a certain level of success, like overflow clients, and so you were like building upon that success. And so that's a great point, and it brings up this question of like a lot of business owners don't like to go to like networking events because it's often all about like everybody giving their business cards, and it's all about like them selling themselves without being interested in the other person. Like it's often like that, at least in my experience, which is why I really enjoy one time I went to something called quantum networking, where the rule was that everybody leaves their business cards at the door. And it was like facilitated networking where we were paired up and we were guided into breathing exercises and questions. And we were asked to actually ask the other person what they're about and actually be interested in the other. And that was really like great. So I would love for you to speak more about that. Like, how do you network in a way where you're actually providing value and receiving value in like an equal measure and where it's like a win-win for everybody.
I go to a lot of events where there's a community already around the organizers. So it's either a Facebook group or it's a course or a program that I've already participated in. And I know that this person attracts other people who are like me. And so when you get there, the times I've gone and not had a lot of small talk. I've gone and met people that I immediately share my entire life story with. Like, we sit together, we eat together, and we just get straight to it. So the ways that I've noticed that organizers who create events like this, they create like Facebook groups ahead of time. They, create kind of threads to help people find roommates and transportation shares. They ask questions and they ask you to do a little pre-work before you get there. And so you're building that sense of community before you ever get there. So by the time that you get to the event, a lot of the time, I found that people already knew me. Of course, I would probably be one of only 2 or 3 Black people in the room. So it's easy to know me, and I always wear a crown of some sort. So it's easy to find me as well. But people always come up to me and say, hey, I've seen you online. It's nice to finally meet you in person. I'm so-and-so, I'm from here and there. And we just talk and talk and talk until it gets to that natural progression of, oh, by the way, what do you do? But what do you do is not the first question. The first question is, who are you? Where are you from? What made you want to come to this? What are you getting out of this experience? What do you hope to walk away with? And that kind of connection doesn't speak to give me, or sell. It speaks to human being, soul to soul, showing up and both desiring either to have a connection that lasts for this moment that we're here, or maybe a connection that we're going to take home with us and continue to cultivate. So I think you have to be really intentional when you go to events. I like to sit down and meditate over, what is my spirit guided to experience and take away from this event that I'm going to, and what are some of the intentions I have with this event. And I'm not just talking about the money or whatever, clients. I'm talking also about like, how do I want to feel when I'm there, and how do I want the people around me to feel, and like imagining being with people that you connect with and eat with and laugh with, those types of intention setting, so that when I get there, my anxiety or whatever I have, the nervousness about showing up, doesn't feel as severe, because I've already kind of practiced it with my mental imagery. I've already kind of seen how I'm going to show up and be there. And it always kind of works out for me based on that. And the other thing is, be curious about other people. A lot of the time people think charisma, personality is something that you have to, like, it's either you're born with it, you have it, or you don't. And really, charisma is really just about being curious about other people, asking questions, finding out if this person has kids or a dog or something else. And the more that you do that, the more the other person wants to reciprocate with you and create that sort of connection. So I always talk about charisma as being a key part of my strategy. I think I'm one of the people that it comes to me very naturally, very easily, but you can also learn it if it doesn't come to you easily. You can learn how to ask questions. You can learn how to engage. You can learn how to be in a space. As long as you take away your nervousness and imagine that the other person is as nervous as you are to meet them.
Hmm. And you're you're in South Africa, right?
Yes.
And you're born and raised there?
No,
No?
no, I was
No.
born here, but you can hear I have an American accent. So I was raised here until I was 5.5, 6. And then we moved to Vermont in the US. And I lived in Vermont
Uh-huh.
and for 20 years. And then I moved to DC for 6 years. And then I moved home to South Africa about 2.5 years ago.
Oh, okay. So as a woman of color, because I wanted to talk about this, because that's part of the topic of the series too. As a woman of color, like have you experienced like difficulty around like sales and marketing because of that? And because it seems like as people of color, we have to do like extra mindset work in addition to the regular mindset work. It's like there's also the work of decolonization, right? And so I would love for you to like speak to that and how you uh, overcame that, and also how you're helping other people of color, really, so that we can all like rise together.
So I think in the beginning, I was making a lot of money, but I wasn't really claiming my money. I wasn't looking at my money. I wasn't engaging with my money. And my very first clients, I didn't even, I felt so uncomfortable. I came from a very good job. Okay. So it's not like I came from complete poverty or anything like that. I come from a fairly well, middle class family. Um, Not tons of perks, but enough so that I've always been comfortable for the most part. We had some rough patches when I was a teenager, but I grew up comfortable. And so all of a sudden having issues with money that I was earning through my business was new to me. I had no issues with the money I earned through my day job. I had no issues asking for a raise or talking about my salary with a new job. That came fine. That was easy. But when it came to actually running a business and asking for money, I almost literally ran away from that process. And I remember very specifically a client wanting me to do a rush job and me talking to another friend saying, it feels like it's going to be a lot of work and I don't feel like doing this rush job unless this person charges extra. And the friend says to me, I said, unless the person pays extra. And the friend said to me, well, then why don't you just charge them extra? And I just remember feeling really nervous about the prospect of charging them extra and having conversations about money because I attached a lot of other things to that. So I imagine that me talking to them about money and asking for more money would mean they might not like me anymore, or they're thinking I'm greedy, or they're thinking I'm inauthentic or not spiritual, right? And when we think about spirituality, think about healers and people who do different healing modalities, coaches and things. In the old days, people who did this kind of work, healing work, priests and priestess work, they were naturally just taken care of by their communities, right? People just gave them alms and delivered produce to them and food and money and whatever they needed to get by. But we don't live in that society anymore, right? We live in the society where we actually have to ask and we have to engage in transactions, even as healers and even as spiritual people. I consider myself very much of a copywriter who uses my soul. I channel the copy. I don't write copy. I channel it. It comes through my soul, from spirit, from God, from wherever, and through my fingertips. So for me, that was a journey that was hard. But one of my clients said to me, like, why are you acting like this? You're acting like you're not good at what you do. Do you think you're good at what you do? And I was like, yes. She said, have I and your other clients been happy with the work that you've delivered? I said, yes. She said, okay, so what's the issue here? And that's when I started to sort of deconstruct what is the issue. And I started being able to handle the money. I was good at the sales call. I could close the client on the sales call. It came to the money part where I had to like send an invoice or whatever. And so I decided to have some things set up in advance, some systems, knowing what my prices were, being able to send a person a link on the call and say, here's where you can pay. asking my husband to help me a little bit with accounting and things, because he's really good at that and his mind thinks like that. And sort of partnering together over finances helped me to overcome that. Now, have I, gotten over it completely? I'm not going to lie to you and say absolutely yes. With every new level, it's gotten scarier and scarier. The more money you make, the more fear comes back. You think that these things are gone, but they really just keep coming back to us. So the work I do to overcome it spiritually is really loving myself, falling in love with myself, working to be in love with myself, knowing that I contribute value, doing forgiveness work, whether it's myself, forgiving myself, forgiving the people around me, forgiving my parents, forgiving my ancestors, going back and rewriting things. And I like to do meditations where I go back in time and I imagine things that didn't turn out the way that I completely desired that they would, and rewriting them just in my mind. I don't even have to engage with the other person, but rewriting that experience. And I've done that even thinking about some of the things that my parents and my ancestors and my people who came before me have gone through. A lot of oppression and generational issues based on colonialism and slavery and all these things that have happened. Going back through that forgiveness and that rewriting process of imagine if it had been different, and can I allow myself to receive even if I know my ancestors didn't receive. And that's ongoing work, because the thing that you don't want to do is as a human being separate from your community of origin, and thinking that, like, if I go ahead and I take I go 5 miles ahead of the people who I came up with, am I somehow betraying them? So a lot of that work, that self-value, self-image, and generational stuff, also go into like energy healing and, spiritual blueprints. I do a lot of different things that I don't necessarily talk about, but they're really important to me. And I usually coach my copywriting clients through it. And I have coaching programs. So I coach my business clients through that as well. It's a big part of what I do to empower, people of color in my programs, and some women in my programs, because generationally, we're not used to handling money, right? We didn't have that experience. In my upbringing, we were forced to live in little tiny 4-room houses in what they call townships, where people were forcibly moved from the land that they used to live in and inhabit, and pushed into these places where we were forced to live really close to one another and live a completely different lifestyle. And no matter how much money you could accumulate and have, you still were not allowed to move into nicer areas because you were Black or Asian or Indian or colored, which is mixed here in South Africa. So that is a big part of it too. There's a lot of guilt, and then there's a lot of like, who am I to be here when my, just even when I was a kid, we were not allowed to live in the neighborhood I live in now. And that was about 1990 when we lived here in Pretoria, in the town that I'm in now. Or the city I'm in now, I was not allowed to live in this nice neighborhood that I live in now.
Yeah, those are great points, especially about deservingness and feeling like you're betraying your ancestors. It's because I recently watched a TED Talk by Rukiah Adams, and I was really surprised to learn this, that when slavery ended, that the government gave like the Black slaves, about $300 as a beginning money so that they could get by. And over 100 years later, adjusted for inflation, the average income of a Black person is exactly the same, pretty much the same amount as that. I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense based on what happened and the trauma. Not only, one day you were just set free, I think, as a slave or, an oppressed person, and expected to get over everything. There was no trauma care. There was no rehabilitation. There was nothing. It was like, go out there and survive now. And, in this day and age, we know a lot about trauma, and, trauma is a big field of study. I had some uncles here in South Africa that were imprisoned during apartheid in the struggle for freedom for all, equality for all people, regardless of their color. And, I realize now, like, one of them went to a center for trauma, for people who have been tortured, because they were tortured a lot. And some of them, some people didn't have a chance to go to those centers and have to deal with the results of that trauma on their own. And it is hectic. It really impacts you. And that trauma that I think is, oh, he just experienced it or she just experienced it. But I really believe we're connected. We're, especially someone who's in my own family, those threads, they go deep. And so what he experienced or she experienced in my lifetime, I also experienced, because I was here in fear, wondering, are they okay? And what are they going through? And then having to hear the stories later on and read about them and so on. And then when you think about generationally, they've done studies on I think it was on mice. And on those mice, they conditioned the mice to be afraid of drinking from a certain water source, because they'd be shocked when they went to drink at that water source, right? And so the first generation of mice was conditioned to be afraid of drinking at that water source. When they had children who were never even subjected to that same trauma, that same shock, the children were just put in the environment, they completely avoided that water source. And it's almost like it was passed down generationally. This fear that we have is going to keep us alive. Make sure you don't go near that water source. And so I think with us human beings, we inherit those blueprints inside us without even realizing it. And it's not common knowledge. It's not taught in school, or, we don't see this on the news. So how are you to know until one day you realize, I'm having really serious issues charging, making money, closing clients, and I don't know what the issue is. You start researching, you start asking other people questions, and voila, you realize, oh my gosh, I've got generational trauma that I didn't even know about.
Wow. Yeah, I've read of that experiment before, so it's great that you brought it up too. Yeah, and that's why in my line of work as a coach and healer, I do more than just mindset work. I also do embodiment work and uh, movements to really embody different ways of being, and also awakening to your true self, because we have, thousands of these limiting beliefs, and we can spend entire lifetimes trying to delete them one by one. But until we really wake up to who we are as the one that's just zero, with no beliefs, no thoughts whatsoever, and infinity at the same time, it's lifetimes of work, because it's not just in the mind, it's in the cellular tissues, it's in the emotions. So, and it sounds like you do similar work in the sense of you work with the energy, not just the mental thoughts. So that's great. So let's go back to the copywriting. One of my favorite people, Ted Hargrave, he did something really innovative a few years ago. So between the sales page and the buy page, he added an "Are you sure" page when people click on the buy button. And he said that since doing that, his refund rates went way down, and the people who bought were more in alignment with that. And it speaks to kind of your mindset around copywriting as well, of making sure that it's really what they need and desire. So that's great. And I wanted to also talk along the same lines. I wanted to talk about the difference between coaching during the sales call and coaching when you're on the sales page. And we kind of alluded to that earlier. And there is a difference. So, it's not always an integrity to be coaching during the sales call to mix coaching with sales, because there's a whole lot of coaches out there who, if the client says I can't afford it, they go, well, that's your limiting belief. And and it's not always a good idea to straight up say that during the sales call, because it's not in total integrity. There's a conflict of interest, right? Between you wanting to make the sale and you actually wanting the client to benefit. But whereas on the sales page, because you're not actually there, it sounds like the client is just coaching themselves and you're just facilitating that to happen. So like speak
Mhm.
to that a bit more.
So on the sales page, I like to ask, instead of saying so if somebody says, I cannot afford it on a call, right? I'm talking to them
Mm-hmm.
and they say, I cannot afford it. I really do think it's very manipulative to start going into their limiting beliefs without permission,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
without clarity. So if I do a, let's say it's a trial, some people do this. They do like free coaching session where it's a real coaching session for free, and at the end they pitch. And the problem with that is a lot of people don't know, and I didn't know in the beginning when I first got into this industry, that it was a sales call that started with coaching and moved into sales. I thought I'm just getting a free call. And so being pretty, I like to be very transparent with that. So I'll say, hey, I'm offering free calls. I'm offering a discovery call. If we are a good fit at the end of the call, I am, in full disclosure, going to invite you into my program. That's my intention, and that's why I'm making these calls, to get to know people. So a lot of people want to hide that fact, and I don't know why you want to hide something that is just the truth of what you're doing. And so that's the first thing, being really clear when people sign up what they're signing up for. And then in terms of going into that limiting belief stuff, asking questions like, you say you can't afford it. Let's talk. Tell me a little bit more about that. And ask them, do you understand a little bit about like limiting beliefs and things that might be holding you back? Like, and tell them this is no pressure. I'm just having this conversation with you, not trying to, push you into anything. And you don't have to make a decision today. I just want to have this conversation with you, and find out, is it about the money? Is it about the program? Maybe there was a gap. So you ask them, if it wasn't about the money, would you be a yes for this? And if they tell you no, then you know that like, well, we're not a good fit. They don't want this for a reason, right? And then you can find out what that reason is, what questions, objections, whatever that they have. And, either you meet them or you say, thank you very much. I hope you have a nice day. When it comes to the sales page, I can sometimes be direct. I can sometimes get to the point, which is, are you in or are you out? And I'll say things like, I'll maybe refer to my own experience, all the times I said no to myself where I wish I had said yes. Or if I'm writing on behalf of a client, I'll tell the stories of that client, all the times they said no when they wish they were a yes. But I'll also say, like, I'm not here to convince you. I don't want to work with anybody who doesn't want to work with me. I want this to feel good and be a win-win for both of us, right? So going through all of it the same way that you would if you were, kind of thinking about, should I move? Let's say somebody wants to move to Seattle. They're going to make a pro list and a cons list, right? And with the pros, they're going to think of all the wonderful things, the coffee houses, homebrew culture and all these things in Seattle that it has to offer. And then they might think about it's cold and it's, a long season of not seeing the sun and, all types of other reasons for not wanting to move to Seattle. Well, I put those on the sales page. So you're a yes for this program if, and you're a no for this program if. And I list in bullet form the reasons why you would say yes to this, and the reasons you might say no to this. No means that you're probably not ready for a change. Maybe you don't desire to be part of a community. Maybe you don't even believe in this kind of work. Maybe you are looking for a different kind of structure to learn from or grow in. Whatever those things are, you're going to mention them. But I think being really upfront with the sales page is really dichotomy between like yes and no, yes, no. And so it's like the whole page is playing off each other, with positive and not so positive, I guess, negative things kind of juxtapositioned in order to get to the end, which is when they go and hit the buy button.
Yeah, that's great. And it really speaks to this idea that sales is not just about attracting the right person, but also repelling the wrong person, right?
Yes, and copywriting is about that too. It's about polarity. Life is about polarity and contrast, right? The only way you know what you really want is by experiencing what you really don't want and going, no more of that, you know? The reason I was able to attract the kind of relationship I have with my husband now is because I had another relationship where a lot of those traits that I saw in the person weren't a match for me, right? And I started to get clearer on what would be a good match for me. And when I saw those traits in him, then I was like, okay, this is a yes, this feels good, right? And I think that sort of remembering the duality that exists in life and the polarity that exists in life and the cyclical nature of us as human beings, sort of allowing that to be is really important with your writing. And I'm seeing a lot of soul-centered, heart-centered, spiritual entrepreneurs, healers, coaches who aren't willing to go here. You're willing to go deep places with your client, but you're not willing to do this work of discovering and exploring why someone would want to say yes to you in the written form. So we get really lazy with our sales pages and with describing our programs, with talking about the transformations that people can achieve when working with us. The work that you described that you do with your clients, Kundan, is deeply transformational on a cellular level. And how does that impact somebody's sense of well-being and how they show up in the world and the way that they're able to contribute differently after they clear that? Like, let's get excited about that. Let's explore that. Let us describe that in words that match the vibration of the person that you're trying to invite into your program. Or I don't even want to say trying, the person that you are, you know, inviting energetically into your program. And so get into that place when you want to think about marketing your programs, and also think about what is the pain that people are going through and empathize with that pain, get deep with that pain, understand that pain. Don't run from it, because this is why you were called to do this work. And that needs to be conveyed on whatever you're doing. And more often than not, I see most spiritual people just wanting to make a list of the modules and a list of the dates and the number of sessions they have and calling it a day. And I think that's really doing you and the other person a disservice. The moment that you add persuasion and the steps that, you know, I outline in the copywriting process, the moment you do that, you are going to have a higher conversion rate of the right people. So maybe up to 20% more people might sign up for your program. 20% or more are going to sign up having seen themselves described on that page and feeling called to connect with you really intentionally and intimately.
Yeah, and that last point especially is great, seeing themselves described. Like, it's almost like when they read it, it's like, oh my God, like you know me, right? And so it's like very super specific to them, and it's not a generic thing. And I think that also speaks to what you mentioned earlier about prior research around like what they actually need, right? What are their problems? What are their pain points? What have they already done to help resolve it? And what's still not working for them? And how do you come in and be the one that like can resolve what's still not working, right? And that is just great. And you mentioned also the steps. So let's have that be like our like final question to complete this. So that's a great segue. Like you mentioned in your other talk about the 5 steps. So like tell us about that.
Okay, so
For
I like
copywriting. Yeah.
simplify copywriting. I like to reduce it down. It's not complicated. I know people who dropped out of school in grade 8 or grade 10 and were told they were horrible writers and go on to write beautifully. I've taught So many people. One of my clients came to me, and I could hardly read a sentence when I first got to know her, or a sentence of what she was saying. It was never clear expression for her. And she felt very self-conscious about that. And she confided in me that someone told her that she writes like a high schooler. And so she really didn't like writing for that reason. And she took my program, she learned the steps. And let me tell you, I would hire her to write my material now. You know, it's been about a year and a half, 2 years since I taught her. And in that time, she is writing every single day. She's connecting to her ideal clients. And she's gone through the transformation that I so badly want to see everyone go through so they can express themselves. So if you're sitting there on the other side of the screen going, okay, Tepsii, but this isn't for me, this writing thing, I want to stop you right there and go, if, this client of mine could do it. And she's so honest with it. She even gave me a review on YouTube saying, exactly what I just said. She's very honest with it. If she could do it, I think that most of us can learn this. As long as we can learn to read and write, we can get here with copywriting. So step number 1, and I want to thank Micheline Diane Benson for being here and for commenting. She's been so awesome, and thank you. I feel so encouraged by your presence and by your questions and your comments. They're really awesome. So going into the steps of copywriting, I reduce it to 5 steps because, like I said, I want to make this accessible to anyone who wants to write and express themselves. Copywriting is a form of divine self-expression and soul expression, and so is sales, right? Selling or inviting people in to our programs. We start with identifying the struggle or the issue that a person is having. So are you struggling with fatigue or low energy? Or are you struggling with not making enough sales? Or are you struggling with sitting on the sidelines, watching everybody else in the world, it seems like, launching or doing things, dating, whatever it is, and you feel like, you're completely left out, and it makes you feel down on yourself, not confident, whatever. So we start with a sort of question like that, identifying people's struggles, which means that we have to understand their struggles as the people who are offering these services. From that point, then we go from identifying who this is for into kind of illustrating what their dream is. So if you are now stuck and feeling low energy or whatever, the contrast to that, what is the contrast? It's jumping out of bed in the morning and, hopping into the shower, singing along with your favorite song, skipping down the stairs in the morning to make yourself breakfast, feeling excited for every single day, right? We get into that. And I like to describe it just the way that I am now. The way that I'm speaking is the way that I write, so that the person who's reading it can imagine me speaking to them, and they can imagine that they're listening. And it's not some academic, formal paper they're reading. They're reading an account of how their life could be. And so it's illustrative. It uses, in language that can have people picturing the scene rather than just simply describing the scene. We want to picture it, okay? So step 1 is identifying who this is for. Step 2 is illustrating their dreams so they can picture themselves in the story. Step 3 is letting the person know that they are stuck and they've been struggling and they've got a lot of hurdles they haven't overcome. And we recognize that, we see that. And, as people who are witnessing that, we don't blame them. We actually have a lot of compassion for them, and we understand that you can often be stuck and stay stuck if you don't have the right tools or guidance or people around you or community to help you move through. And from that point where I'm, giving that empathy, people want to be seen and heard and feel understood. We move through the world with so many of us not having anybody to listen to us, anyone to share our journey and our, path with. And so this is the point where a person can feel seen and understood because we've done the work to understand why they would get to this point and want to buy from us. Next, we would introduce ourselves and explain, who we are. And I like to call this part the power intro, introduce ourselves powerfully. So I'm Tepsii. I've been featured on Oprah Magazine and Cosmopolitan Magazine, and I have worked with hundreds of one-on-one clients. Collectively, my clients have made something like $20 million in the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years. I've spoken on stages across the world and taught thousands of people online my programs and my methods and whatever. So that's a power intro. It's not bragging. It is showing up 100% and owning what we are, who we are, as we've, put a lot into becoming these people, right? Put a lot of education and time and effort into achieving these things. Why don't we share them? A lot of people are so reluctant to do this because they think it's bragging, they think it's overkill, whatever. But I want you to do this because what it does is it lends you credibility, and it allows people to know the context that you exist in. So maybe you have a degree in engineering, but now you're a transformational coach. Well, does that relate? Not necessarily, but a person who's reading it can go, wow, if this person had the follow through and wherewithal to finish an engineering degree, that means that they understand systems and processes. They might probably now translate that into the work that they do to understand people and how people process emotions and move through life. And isn't that awesome? So, they are able to translate that experience, that past experience of yours, into the current experience. People do that naturally. And then if you don't have a whole bunch of credentials or whatever, it's okay. Maybe you have a testimonial from someone who's describing what you've done and worked with them. Maybe you have experienced the transformation for yourself. Like, you've lost a bunch of weight and now you know what it takes, the mindset it takes, and, the fortitude it takes to kind of show up in that different way and help a person lose weight. So you can use your own credibility, your own experience, or you can tap into whatever certificates, degrees, diplomas that you have. I actually never mentioned my degree. I don't know why, but that's a good point. I should start probably. I like to mention my clients' degrees when I write for them. So then after I introduce myself, I explain what I do and why I do it. And then from there, the why I do it is usually related into why I created the program or the service or the products that I'm now selling. And so that is the time for me to present my offer. And that's the first time I'm going to mention the offer on the page. And why is that? It's because you don't want to be presumptive and ask for a kiss on a first date. You want to get someone comfortable with you and acquainted with you and allow them to get some of those subconscious questions they've had answered. So if it's like they've been wondering, well, does this person understand me? Do they work with people like me? Do they understand the struggle I've been through and how hard I've tried to solve this before? Do they have the credentials to support me? They've psychologically been getting those questions answered as they've read. And so at the point when they get to the offer, it's a natural transition into that because they're curious now how they can actually work with you. If this person's so wonderful, I want to know how I can work with them. And so we present the offer, we talk about how many steps there are in the process or how many modules are on the course or, just any details describing the course. And we also describe the benefits, what the transformation is that someone is going to get once they have gone through the course. And finally, the final step is a call to action. That are you in or are you out step? And so that's the point where we then invite them to, here's how you can purchase. Here's what happens when you make your purchase. Here we let them know the emails that they'll get. We let them know, who will be in touch with them and how the service will be delivered to them from that point on. And they go ahead and go through, complete their payment profile, and now are one of your new clients. Woohoo! Or unless it is a program that's by application, then in that case, they are going to hit the apply button. That's the call to action. And it's for them to apply, and you tell them the reason why they're applying, right? We don't just say, you're applying because I'm so wonderful. No, you're applying because, maybe I want to curate a sense of community and I really want to get to know you. And so that I know that you're going to be a good fit with the other people and we will be working through this maybe 10 months together. We should have some rapport, if we're going to go move forward together. So those are the steps that I use. Let me just recap them. We start with identifying who this thing is for and what their struggles are. We go into talking about their dreams and what success looks like to them on the other side of solving the struggle. And then we empathize with them and we let them know we understand and that it's not their fault that they're so stuck. We give ourselves a powerful introduction. We present the offer, and the offer then rolls into the call to action.
That's great. And I wanted to touch on the last thing you said about the not making the sale immediately, and your metaphor about romantic relationships and the kiss. And so that really speaks to also the point of having a marketing funnel, because even getting them to the sales page may be a journey, and that's where a marketing funnel comes into play, where they get usually they get a freebie first, and then you then send them some blog posts or some videos to watch, and there are different kinds of funnels. Like there is like the Jeff Walker product launch formula, which is like a series of 3 videos. There is also the free plus shipping funnel, which is where you give them a free book, but they pay for shipping, and when they pay for the shipping, you offer them an immediate upsell on the same page. That's usually about $17 or $37. So that gets them at least used to buying from you. And there's a whole lot of different opinions on like between the free offer and the sales, and especially a high-end sale, right? What is the length of time that you would recommend? Because if it's too long, then they get used to just getting free stuff from you and they think everything's free, and there's a sense of entitlement, right? Expecting everything for free. But if it's too fast, then yeah, right. But if it's too fast, then it's also very abrupt, and it's like, it's like you said, you're asking for a kiss or even for sex too fast, right? So what do you think is the balance, the right amount of time?
So it depends on what you're selling and the level of commitment it is. If I'm selling a book for $7 or $12, I can ask for the sale immediately. If I'm selling a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, I can ask for the sale immediately. If I'm selling something that's like $50 or more, I would say like from $60 and more, I can maybe have a couple of emails between the initial point where we first get introduced to each other and the point where maybe 1 to 2 emails for something like, or 3 emails for something about $60. Now, if it's something in the hundreds or the thousands or the tens of thousands of dollars, you need to do a couple of steps in your launch process, and you need to think about this relationship building being an investment over time. So you can't think, oh, I'm going to run a Facebook ad tomorrow and make a new client, on Monday. It's going to take some time. So it starts with warming people up. So 6 weeks before you ask for the sale, start warming them up and let them know something is coming. Even as they download the freebie, let them know that this is part of a larger system that you sell. It's not just a freebie, it's part of your programs. And this is a taste for them to see what it's like to work with you and what it's like to consume your materials, so that they can figure out whether or not they'd like to go forward with you, right? So from that, 6 weeks, I've even done like 12 weeks, 10 weeks. If it's something really, really big and I'm leading up to it, I'm getting people excited, releasing new freebies, doing new videos, building the list, doing a lot of list building, so that when I get ready to open the doors to the offer and let people know it's for sale, I have hot and hungry buyers. If you are new and you want to make sales sooner, you don't have 6 months, you don't have 12 weeks, you don't have 6 weeks even. You can accelerate this a little bit by showing up, being more consistent, and maybe you can do it over 2 to 3 weeks in terms of warming people up all the way to asking for a sale. I've done launches before where they were maybe 7 days from, and I was running ads to a webinar, and some of the ads were running to my warm audience, which is people who had already been on my email list for some time. And I was also running ads to a lookalike audience, people who have the same kind of behaviors as my own audience. And then I was running ads to some cold traffic. And cold traffic, that usually is going to take a little bit longer to convert. But I did get, I'd say I had a program that filled 15 people, and I got 2 completely cold people to sign up for my offer. The rest were people who'd been in my community for a while. So you have to understand that as a seller, you can't think that this launch is going to be the be all end all. There are going to be people who watch your launch a couple of times before they jump in, and you know that you've watched other programs and products a couple of times before you jumped in. So the sales process can sometimes be long with certain consumers, and that is perfectly okay. I've had people buy from me after knowing me for 2 years fully, and people who I thought, they were my friends, and later turned into clients. And so that surprised me, because I always thought, if you knew you wanted to buy from me, why didn't you just buy from me from day one? And they had their various reasons and objections why. And they told me those reasons. Some of them were the words I used in my marketing. There was a while where I was talking about leaving your 9 to 5 a lot. And some of these people were like, well, I've already left my 9 to 5. I guess she must not be working with people like me, right? And so I disqualified them with that language. So thinking about that, we have to do some warming up. We have to do some list building. We have to get subscribers on that email list, and then we have to communicate with those subscribers and let them know I am a seller. I am a marketer. I'm going to be in your inbox with offers. And if they resonate with you, you can purchase them. If they don't, here's the button where you can click to stop receiving. I don't want people on my list for vanity numbers and reasons. I want people who really, truly want to engage and experience that transformation with me. So once I open the doors, though, and we say, okay, I've been pre-launching, I've let people consume my freebie, it's been a couple of weeks, and now the doors are open, I like to send at least 7 emails in terms of sales emails, and from introducing the offer all the way to the hard close, are you in or are you out? And on the last day, the 7th day, let's say the 7-day cart opening, that last day I'm going to send 3 emails into people's inbox and be really consistent in their inbox. Why? Not to bother them, but because most of us are so busy, I get thank you emails and notes on that day when I send 3 reminders, because there's a deadline on that day. And if I don't send those 3 reminders, somebody might forget, their kid gets sick, the electricity goes out, whatever happens in their life, and they might not remember to take the action. So on that last day, when you see other people sending you 3 emails in one day, that is the reason why they're doing it, because most of us forget, we get busy. They're not doing it just to bother you, but if it does bother you, you're probably not their ideal buyer, and you should get off their list.
Yeah. And just another question just occurred to me, which is, there is, depending on the price and the offer, some sales pages can lead to an immediate buy button and they just buy. But I think some sales pages would lead to an application form that would be the call to action, and they get on a sales call, right? And so at what price do you think they need a sales call first before their immediate buy button?
It depends on how hot the lead is, right? I've seen people sell courses at $2,000, $3,000, and people buy it right away, but it's low touch. So it's maybe it's a mega course. It's got tons of different modules in there. And so the person is buying a comprehensive experience or education or whatever. And so it's kind of like a university, buying into, a whole year of university. I don't necessarily need to go and interview with all the staff in order to, decide to go to a certain university, unless I'm doing a very specialized program. However, I've also seen, and I've experienced, in my own coaching program, if it's a group coaching and it's like $3,000 or $5,000, I will do sales calls with the people to get to know them, because I'm going to be talking to them and interacting with them every week. It's not the same as like a hands-off course where the person buys and goes through independently. It's totally different. But it really depends on you and your energy and what you're available for. I also see coaches have success with hiring sales staff to do the calls for you and outsourcing that piece, and then inviting people in to then work with you, and compensating that person who does the sales call with you with maybe 10% of the money that the client is going to purchase, to incentivize them as the seller, and to also make it fair for you for the energy that you're putting in while you're working with the client. So I think a lot of it depends on you and also your niche. Like, what are the people in your audience used to seeing and doing? And you can also even ask them, like, if you were going to, invest in working with me, would you want to talk to me first, or would you be willing to just pay the money? I've had people just pay the money, $5,000, and I'll be like, oh, wow, I just found money in my account. And I've had other people be really reluctant to, that's a lot of money to them, and they don't just want to send it away, into the ether. They want to have a conversation. So when I do offer sales calls, they get booked up really quickly because I don't offer them often, and people do want to get on the phone.
Great. Yeah, well, thank you so much for doing this, Tepsii. And I would like to thank Micheline for all the great comments and questions. She's commented on our talk around the systemic violence as well, and then also this comment around the selling. I think her number one takeaway is what's on the screen right now, that taking out sell would be a complete game changer for her, and she says thank you. And I think she's speaking to what you said earlier about having it be an invitation rather than manipulating or convincing anybody, and it's just an invitation. So I love that. And so you have two websites. You have a website for your course, Right to Profit, which is a do-it-yourself course, and then you have your, I think, main website, which I think is Tepsii.com. So tell us a little bit about those two things, and if you have any. The Right to Profit is a paid course, and then let us know if you have any free offers or anything you would like to offer the audience.
Yeah, so Right to Profit is a 6-module course. It takes you through everything I've been talking about today. So everything from how to figure out the language that your ideal buyers are using, how to connect with them, how to feel like you're inside their head, energetically, emotionally, whatever, and how to figure out your brand. So a lot of us think about our brand as the assets, like my website is full of gold and black, and that's my brand, but that's not really my brand. My brand is emotional. My brand is transformational. My brand is connection. And so we go through the exercises to get to the heart of that brand, to figure out your why for being in business, to figure out what you call yourself, and how you help people, and why what you do matters. And from there, we move into talking about like how to break down your offers and kind of write them up in a way that's really enticing. I provide you with templates for each page on your website. So your home page has a template, your about page has a template, your sales page has a template, and your work with me has a template. And each template comes with illustrations, so you can see the system at work with a real sample piece of copy that I've written for a client, so you can see if you're on the right track or not. And we have tracks to help people depending on what they do. So if you're a healer, I have certain wording to kind of guide you and hint at what you need to get to. If you're a business coach, I have certain wording to get to you. We have one for web designers. I have a track for health coaches. So kind of whoever you are in what you're doing in terms of online marketing, digital marketing, and attracting clients, you can find the guidance inside that course to help you. And from there, on my website, I have other offers. So if you're looking for done for you, you want someone to write for you because you're busy, you have clients, you have a lifestyle to lead, you have kids maybe, or a dog. I can do the writing for you, and you can go to Tepsii.com and click on the copywriting page and click to one-on-one copywriting and find out about how we can work together in that way. And I do have privilege-based pricing. I cater and center people of color and women especially. And so if you have any situations or any reason why you need some assistance, some help, or a different kind of payment plan or whatever it is, I offer those. That is very important to me. It's something that I didn't used to do and didn't recognize that that was my privilege showing by not thinking about, people in different circumstances and how I could be of service to them. And this year, 2018, is the year of service for me to, give back and contribute more to my community. And I used to think I'd have to take my whole business apart and start doing something completely different. But I realized I can be of service in this way. And then finally, I have freebies. Yes. On my website, you go to Tepsii.com and click on the freebies button, freebies link in the top menu, and you will see, I think, 4 different freebies from me talking about launching and how to write a landing page, just some different offers. And there's one on mindset, which I need to kind of redo based on the ahas and the experiences I've had over the past year with generational stuff that I would like to redo. But it's really a wonderful start for anybody who's looking for a boost.
Great. And Tepsii.com is Tepsii.com with 2 I's, right?
2 I's, Tepsii.com, yes. And you can find me there. We have a lot of different ways that you can work with me, my team, and I'm excited about connecting with anybody who's looking to scale and attract more people and find just the right words. And it's once you have your copy written, it's not just that it's going to stay there stagnant on a page. What it does is give you the confidence when you do go into a invitation call or a sales call, you'll know what the value proposition for this program is and why somebody would want to buy it and what some of the objections people have and how it's lined up for you. And so some of that language, I've often either on a webinar or on a sales call, pull up my own pages and walk people through it because it's written in the exact structure that you need to sell and persuade in. So it makes a lot of sense to do the legwork of getting your copy written or writing your own copy so that you can get 100% clear and confident on your offers.
Mm-hmm. And your course is write2profit.com, right?
Yes, write2profit.com. And it's just www.write2profit. So Write to Profit. And I named it that because I was working with a lot of healers and coaches in the beginning who didn't think they had a right to profit, just like I didn't in the beginning. And so I named it with kind of a pun on words to, that you should be writing to profit, but then also you have a right, an intrinsic right to be abundant and to experience, that feeling of bringing in profits.
Great. And I'll post the links in the comment below after this. And write2profit.com. Write2Profit also has a bonus if you pay a higher price where you also do website design, right?
Yes, we have a ready-made template so that when you're done writing your copy, you can plug and play all of the copy right into it. And they're beautifully made templates, make it really simple for you to get online very quickly. We had those specially made, and they come with a lifetime update with the templates through a site called Divi. So we give you a lifetime membership to Divi, which would cost you, I think, almost like $300 if you were to buy it on your own, and you would get nothing but the template and no customization. So we customize it for you. We install it for you. We give you instruction on how to customize it, and you also get pages much like the ones that I've made for myself with placeholders letting you know where to insert everything so that everything is cohesive and you don't have to feel stuck at the end. So we did that when a lot of my clients were struggling to get online, we did that for them. And we also include in that as a bonus membership plugin and a membership area already designed and created for you. You just have to go in and upload your material and customize the banners. You want it to match your own branding and not my branding. So, but it's super easy. And once you've got that membership plugin, when somebody goes to make the sale in PayPal or whatever, they're also making their own membership account and their own password. And so that takes out the additional step in between when you have to send people passwords or account information. We don't do any of that. You just have people signing up naturally and getting delivered the content either all at once or dripped to them according to your needs. So that was a game changer for me when I discovered that. And I thought, well, let me have that available for the people who buy from me in my community.
And that's if they want to create their own membership course or membership site, right?
Yes, if they want to create their own. And if you would like something designed for you, my husband actually does web design. He's designed a number of my pages. He's really good. And so you can get a hold of us if you would like, done for you completely. And we can help with that as well.
And Divi is a WordPress theme, right?
Yes, it's a WordPress theme, and you just install WordPress.org on your site. We actually do the installation for you, so you don't have to do anything in terms of installation. We install it. We make sure all the pages are set up, and so that you have like a structure for your website to start with, and then you can go in and customize it.
Yeah, I've used Divi before. It's pretty good theme.
I love it. I love it because I tried Squarespace, I tried Wix, I tried a lot of different things. And with WordPress, this was the first time I could actually figure out the SEO, and there's a lot of add-ons or like plugins for WordPress, for things like your email provider, your landing pages, things like that are a lot easier for me personally in WordPress. And so I'm team WordPress all the way.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Tepsii, for doing this interview, and thank you everyone for watching and commenting.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. It's nice to get to know you and see you and connect from across the world. We're literally, where do you live? Do you live in LA?
Yeah, California.
Yeah. So I did the math, or like the calculation yesterday. I Googled it, and it was like 10,355 miles away and 25 hours by flight. So we're all the way across the world from each other. We're able to connect. It's pretty cool. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, and that's amazing. You're welcome. And thank you once again. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for being here live. And for those watching the replay, you will be getting a whole lot of value and benefits out of it. And I'd appreciate it if you comment below about your number one takeaway or benefit you got out of this. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. And thank you again, Tepsii.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Bye.